Well, my name is Andy Ogles. I'm Maury County Mayor. Was elected about 2.5 years ago. For all of you running for office, what are you thinking? Well, I do it. No, of the people, by the people, for the people. And if you don't do it, the left will, and they're trying to steal our country. Kind of like Elizabeth. I ran for office because pre-COVID I was pissed off, right? How many Trump supporters do we have in the room? How many Trump supporters do we have in the room? You think the election was stolen? How many of you think that the state of Tennessee and our governor should be leading the charge to defend our president? Now, simple question. How many of you are willing to do something about it? Yes. So I think that's where we begin, is that when you look over the past year, we've seen how politicians can become tyrants. I was one of the mayors, if not the first mayor, to not only say no to the authority to issue a mask mandate, but it was hell no. And I was speaking in Franklin, and the reporter just was surprised. Well, why didn't you do it? I said, because it's against the law. I don't have the authority. If you've read the state constitution, if you've read state law, it's clear. I don't have the authority. The General Assembly passes laws. Someone will say, well, what about seatbelts? Well, that's a law. What about smoking or not smoking or doing this or doing that? Yes, they're laws. The laws passed by the General Assembly, people that you and I elect. Right. And so by being given the authority with a stroke of a pen to issue a mask mandate, I became the General Assembly for Maury County. Nowhere in state constitution is that allowed. Period. And the but matters. Period. I do not have that authority, and any county mayor who accepted that authority should be kicked out of office. And I have some friends who did. Am I too close to the mic? Is there an echo? I'm sorry. But so there's so many things we could talk about. I tweeted to the governor. I've known the governor for a long time. He is a good man. But I've struggled with watching the leadership over the last year. And so I tweeted to him, or at him, or however you say it, chirp, tweeted, whatever that's called. I'm not very hip. It's, when you get up in the morning, ask yourself, what would Ron DeSantis do? And do that. But it's like, Tennessee arguably is the most conservative state in the republic. And by the way, it is a republic. We are a free republic. We have the right to be conservative. And California has the right to be left-wing crazy. I defend the right. But stay the hell out of Tennessee. But I see what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida, and I'm thinking, why isn't Tennessee doing the same thing? We're going to lift the mask mandate, but school boards can still do it. We're going to prevent vaccine passports, however businesses can do it. It's on and on and on. Transgender. If you're a dude in a dress, you're still a dude. You can't play women's sports. But in Tennessee, it only applies to high school sports. In Florida, again, what would Ron DeSantis do? Yeah. It applies to the NCAA. And furthermore, if you allow it, you lose state funding. Why aren't we doing that to the University of Tennessee? So we kind of halfway do what Ron DeSantis does. That doesn't cut it. He's like, I'm going to halfway say a prayer. Oh, God, hey, I'm halfway there. We've got to be all in on this, right? And so, real quick about myself, you've heard the bio. I was an entrepreneur first. Yes, businesses are regulated, but you're protected by HIPAA. So I don't even understand why this conversation of a vaccine passport is even allowable. Thank you. If you can't take a vaccine because you have a pre-existing health condition, You are protected by ADA.
Yes.
Why are we still having this conversation? Because tyrants think they have the authority to govern your health care. And that's got to stop. So, entrepreneur, I was relatively successful young. I was in the real estate and restaurant business. By the way, don't ever open a restaurant. But now I say that seriously though. So people will be like, hey, so tell us about your experience in the restaurant. It's like, don't do it. Kind of like you guys running for office. No, I mean, but then I had the opportunity to go to work for Newt Gingrich. I worked in the nonprofit realm for a little bit. I ran 12 countries. I was in the anti-human trafficking space, specifically child trafficking. And that gives you, I guess it gives you perspective when you're operating in other countries and you're doing everything from rescue, kidnapping on one end to placement on the other, and you appreciate the value of life. You know, Pastor Sharam, by the way, Pastor Sharam, Pastor Ken, give those guys a sometimes I look at, and this is from someone who's operated in tier 2 and tier 3 countries, we forget that we're a first world country and we have these first world problems that happen down fast enough, And some places, water is an issue, or life is an issue, or freedom is an issue. And what we've seen over the last year is that our freedom, if we don't wake up, we're next. And don't be surprised with whatever they come up with next. Whether it's labeling you a racist or labeling you with this, or you're mean because you won't wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask. And you have a right not to. But from there, I went on to work with David and Charles Koch, the evil Koch brothers. I helped run one of their political organizations, and then the opportunity to run for mayor. I failed to read the fine print. I did not realize pandemic and race riots was part of the job description. I may have reconsidered, but here we are. So that's the short version. You've heard a lot of speakers tonight. What I would like to do is you'll have to stand up, speak loudly, but engage you and answer your questions. And I know you're not bashful, so go ahead and stand up. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to run for governor?
So I guess the question is, so let me flip the table. Do you want a new governor?
Yeah!
My cowboy boots in here are only going to take you. Say what?
We not only want one, but we need one.
Yes.
Well, in all seriousness, I'll say this, because I had planned this, right? There's so few things you actually get to plan in a speech when you go last. My cowboy boots and my hair are only going to take me so far, right? But seriously, what you're asking, what we're thinking, is a huge undertaking.
Yes.
Just like taking over the city council, or the county commission, or the school board, and it's all incredibly important. Because again, I would argue, and I will say this, if we're not number 1 most conservative, we're number 2 or number 3. We're clearly top 3 most conservative state in the country. Why do we still have the ability, why do politicians or boards or unelected bureaucrats still have the authority to issue a mask mandate? Or to tell you to take a vaccine? If I want to go watch a concert, you know what? The vaccine is readily available, and if you want it, go get it. Right? That's what it's for. But
Stop calling it a vaccine. It's an injection of foreign matter.
That's the argument. Well, we're doing this because we're protecting you. Well, I don't want your protection. I want my freedom. But if you want to affect change, especially if it's statewide, how many of you are willing to knock doors? How many of you are willing to donate? Because that's what it takes to affect change. Question. Come on.
How do we get rid of the machines? Because I don't think these socialists really got elected to run Nashville or Knoxville.
Yes.
Amen.
Well, no, I think it's really quite simple. I mean, so the question is how do, especially at the local level, city council, so I'm from Maury County. If you're not familiar with Middle Tennessee, you have Nashville, Davidson County, you have Franklin, Brentwood, which is Williamson County, due south, and then just south of that, you have Spring Hill, Columbia, a little farming community. So we're a suburb of Nashville, one of the redder counties in the state of Tennessee, and even there, you'll see your city council tends to be run by Democrats or socialists or Marxists, whatever label you want to ascribe. Part of that, we're to blame.
Yes.
We are to blame. You know, in addition to being county mayor, I'm also the newly elected chair of the Republican Party for Maury County. Again, what is that? It takes people like Daniel to engage and say, you know what, I care about the presidency. I do. I care about who gets elected to Congress. But more importantly, I care about our local races. I mean, we literally had a school board race in Maury County where the incumbent, for just life reasons, decided, you know what, I served, I'm done. No one pulled a petition. So you have an open seat for a county school board race with no candidate, so he ran as a write-in. Because people are so busy paying attention to all kind of the more glamorous races. Who's going to be my congressman? Or who's going to be president? And I'm telling you, those are important. But we can't forsake the local stuff. Because we've seen during the pandemic who your county mayor is kind of important. Who your county commission is, who's the funding body, is really important. And so we have to engage. So one of the things I challenged my GOP in Maury County was, listen, we'll still engage at the federal level, at the presidential level, at the state, and the state senators and state reps, but we're going to engage and we're going to recruit school board candidates and city aldermen, council races, and commissioners who uphold conservative values for our community. Period. Then we'll do state, then we'll do federal and all the other stuff. And so that's how it happens. We get distracted. We're kind of busy working. We've got mortgages and children. I got 3 kids, 13-year-old daughter, no, I'm saying correctly, 14-year-old daughter, she just had a birthday, which I'm in denial. I have an 11-year-old son, and I have a 5-year-old son. So yeah, I'm busy. You know, it's like to be here tonight, you know, I don't get to tuck my 5-year-old in it. Of the 2, or the 3 rather, I can't do math. He's the one that loves me the most, or at least the thing in the hair, right? He's the one that still lets me give him face kisses, right? The other 2 are like, oh my goodness, don't touch me. But again, it's one of those we have to be engaged because it matters. And what's happened here in Knox County, in part, is the blame of the last few years when no one was engaging. And you have the opportunity, you're woke, and congratulations, because we've got to take it back. Question? Yes, sir.
I feel like we're gonna have to have personal voter ID and paper ballots if we're ever gonna have a chance to get.
If you want to go to the gas company and open an account, you have to have a driver's license. You know, if you want to go to the emergency room, even if it's indigent care, you have to have some sort of ID or tell them who you are, right? But to vote somehow is racist or it's prejudiced. Come on now. They have an agenda, and they do and will still an election. And look, I don't know if they stole it or not. I do know that there was fraud. I don't know how much. And you and I deserve the answer to that question. Because if we don't get the answer, they will steal it in the future. I know that to be true. Do I think it was stolen? Yes. Can I prove it? No.
On your voting commission, and what type of ballot you are using, what type of machine.
So the comment was about it's important to know who's on your election commission. It's important to be engaged in, in the process and knowing who they are, what they're doing, but also what type of machine they're using. So like Williamson County, which again is that Franklin, Brentwood area, one of the wealthiest counties in the country, they use the Dominion voting machine. So again, and there's a push to change those out in Williamson County, and then locally they're doing an audit of their own machines to try to figure out, was there anything any monkey business locally. Granted, we're a red state, probably not, but you never know. Georgia, New Mexico, you name it, clearly.
Everybody knows it's expensive to run just about any office. How can we as a community not only help you, but make contributions to your run for governor?
And what is the price tag you need to make it reasonable?
So I have not announced that I'm running for governor. I have announced that I'm running for mayor, which does allow me the opportunity to obviously campaign locally, but to travel the state. If you wanted to support me, you can see I'm gonna appoint Rick. Okay, Rick? It's just Andy Ogles committee, and I would be honored if you felt the opportunity there, or the need, or the desire to help me in that endeavor. But running statewide is expensive. It's about $7 million. It's a crying shame that it costs that much, but that is the reality, and that's on the low end. So I think if you look at Randy Boyd in the governor's race, probably spent closer to 18 million. I'm shooting from the hip here. Don Black was somewhere in the 12 to 14. And then Bill Lee's been around 10, and so that gives you. But I think with the grassroots driven, and I think there's a reckoning going to happen in this country, at least in some states. I think Tennessee is on that list. I don't know about you. I think they stole an election from me, and I want a pound of flesh. I want those people who claim to be conservative to actually be conservative. And if you put an R by your name, you should have read the platform and understand what it means, and then stand by it. And this nonsense that I think that you can allow a business to tell me and invade my health privacy. There's kids in the room. I won't say what I was thinking, but no is the answer. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. How do we keep people in Knoxville to educate them? Just because you put an R behind your name, these people are running with R's behind their name.
Right.
They're not Republicans. It's education. How do we get that message out? Because Democrats know you put an R behind your name, you're going to get elected. Not
Right there.
Yeah,
I would say, your answer is this room. Power Knox, Tennessee stands. Again, we're all busy, but each one of you has a sphere of influence. You've got someone, I've never met you, but he's been vouched for in this room. You should tell everyone you know about this gentleman running for judge. You have some city council, county commissioners. Each one of you has the ability to affect your sphere of influence and make sure that your friends, your family know about these folks. Social media, and I can jump ship for just a minute. It's a powerful tool. It's been weaponized against us, so we've seen with Facebook and all the other stuff. But use it. It's a tool for as long as it's there, then use it against them. To share, to post, to repost, to tag, to lift up those people that you support. So I know some of you got off social media. Look, I wrote a letter to the governor, to the Speaker of the House, and to the Lieutenant Governor. Again, what would Rick DeSantis do? They have, so I'm a fellow, Club for Growth is a conservative organization, if you've not heard from them. This past year they started a fellows program, so they chose 40 individuals from across the country who they deemed were future leaders. I have the privilege of being in that class of first 40. But one of my colleagues from Florida presented a bill which was, it was against social media, against Facebook and Twitter from canceling people. And so I wrote a letter to our governor, to our leadership, saying that Tennessee should do the same. We should follow Florida's lead. You know what I got back in return? That's right. I got nothing. Furthermore, Tennessee just spent $60+ million luring Facebook to Middle Tennessee. We gave them $60 million. They immediately start lobbying our state legislature on their social agenda. So we paid the enemy to set up in our backyard. And it's time that I'm all about recruiting business. I've had the privilege as being mayor. I just
How about my pillow? How about we recruit my
Very fine. one of the fastest growing counties in the state. We're number one for economic growth and jobs. We're number one in income and investment for the state of Tennessee. So in the last 9 months, I've had the privilege of negotiating the largest state deal in state history with the Ultium battery cell plant out of South Korea, and the third largest deal with General Motors, which is transitioning their facility from gas to electric and gas hybrid. But what that does, the significance of it is it puts our battery plant here in Tennessee has more capacity than all the other battery facilities in North America. So it puts the epicenter of the future of automobile manufacturing right here in Tennessee. So it's transformative for our state as we will continue to draw suppliers. However, if you want to come to our state and change it, whether you're from California and you're an individual, or whether you're from New York and you're a business, get out. I don't want you here. And so as we recruit business, as we are a net importer of jobs, we're a net importer of investment dollars from other states, and for better or worse, we're a net importer of people, Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. If you want to come here, come, but understand we're conservative. So yes, ma'am.
Just one simple question. If we solve all the technology problems that we have right now when it comes to elections, even if we solve all of that, how are we gonna eliminate the adjudication process that the election commission can do? I mean, even if there's no computers, there's all paper ballots, the election commission, the head guy, he can look at the ballot and say, nah, I don't think he really meant Republican.
Right.
It looks like he meant Democrat. It's changing.
Sure. So the question is, what do we do about the election process? I'm going to shorten that up like that. That's why, again, you have your local election commission. Maury County, we have a body that supervises the elections. Those individuals are recommended to the state and then appoints them, right? So that's an oversimplification, but that's the way it works. Additionally, you can have poll watchers. And so again, that is why we have to be engaged.
Yes.
That is why we need our attorneys, our conservative attorneys, to be on standby. If they're doing some monkey business, and it's probably not going to happen in Tennessee, probably, at least not now, but Georgia and Michigan, I mean, we know the states, right? We know where they closed it down, they kicked everybody out, and then suddenly, oh, looky here. Oh, magic ballots. And so, but again, there's a process. And again, I'll go back to not what Ron DeSantis would do, but what would Texas do? When Texas filed the suit against the election to be heard by the Supreme Court, why were we 16th to sign on to that? By the time we signed on, it didn't matter. I mean, if you're my attorney general and Texas is number 1 and we're number 16, I've got a resignation letter for you to sign because you're not doing your job, right? As one of, if not the most conservative states in the country, whether it's CRT, whether it's vaccines or masks or life or transgender or all of the things that you and I love. By the way, Maury County's Second Amendment sanctuary county, and we did that way before they passed the Kerry bill. But we should be leading instead of following. And too often, historically, Tennessee is a follower, not a leader.
Andy? So I'm an immigrant to this state. I'm a legal immigrant, but one of the things that has perplexed me is the open primary system that we have. And a lot of the things, it seems to me that a lot of the people are alluding to of R's versus D behind the name is because Democrats are subverting our rights to select our own candidates.
Yep.
For example, if there's no one running in the Democrat primary, only one candidate, for example, but there's 2 candidates running in the Republican primary, which appears to be the case quite frequently, Democrats then come over to subvert and take the most leftist Republican candidate. So I'd like you to address, if you become governor, and maybe, Gary, this is an issue which you might consider, bringing to the legislature, could we establish a system, because I came from a state that had closed primaries. You declared yourself a Republican, or you declared yourself a Democrat. Could you switch? Yeah, you could, but it was a pain in the neck. What do you think about the open primary system in Tennessee?
Yeah, absolutely. We should have closed primaries, and that really impacts your local races where you have lower voter turnout. So if you have a race for governor or senator where you have 900,000 votes cast, it probably has minimal impact unless it's just razor thin or something. But again, at your local level, whether it's county mayor or some of your commission, not all, by the way, not all county commission races in the state of Tennessee are partisan. Some are still independent. So you just run. That's changing across the state where anything above county commission and up is either an R or a D. That's where it matters most. And as we see more and more people moving into our state from, quite frankly, more leftist leaning states, I think the urgency to have closed primaries becomes more and more important. And that's something that the legislature could take up and fix like that. Like all the other issues that they should have fixed this session. Yes, ma'am.
With the atmosphere in this country where people are, if you don't agree with a certain narrative, you're evil or you're bad, how do we as a, like not just the state, but as a country, get back to where we stop this before this leads to a genocide of people?
Well, I'm hopeful that it won't come to that. I think part of the answer in that is we are a nation under God, of God, and we have to put faith in God. I think we also have to speak up and quit being silent. Because my humble opinion, this chorus of hate is coming from a very small segment of people.
Amen.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly loud. And they've tried to cancel me, and I was like, oh, whatever, But I'm in a position where it's probably easier for me to do that. I've seen people on social media who've posted things, and they're a soccer mom or, they're lunchbox dad kind of thing, and I don't mean to stereotype, but it's one of those, they suddenly get attacked, and it can be overwhelming. But, Twitter, for example, anytime I get on Twitter, there's a left-wing Twitter account, they pile on me, and never mind, I won't say, but duck on a June bug is what my grandmother used to say. But it's one of those that can be startling. And so, but what I would say is one, be smart in what you post. I'm not saying don't be you. I'm not saying don't be tactful, but think about your timing of what you're saying, but then say it. And then just know that sometimes actions have consequences. Words have consequences. But if we remain silent, they win. That's why it's important for you to run for judge and you to run for office and you to run for office and Elizabeth to run for office, because we can't be silent anymore. Who would have thought Georgia? I mean, if you know anything about the guy that won the Senate seat, the guy has a pretty shady past. I'm not going to go into all of that, right? But
They just rubbed our nose in how bad the fraud was.
but again, who would have thought Georgia could be stolen? They did it. Arguably, they got away with it. And so you have to engage. So proceed with caution, have faith in God, but be you, and reach out to support you.
We look at Georgia and we see how that happened. But we also see how and any of our machines are connected to the internet. You can have it in Tennessee.
Yeah, so I think there's a real risk about the machines. Why I think paper ballots is our, technology is a blessing and a curse, but I think sometimes having a paper trail, and in this case, quite literally a paper trail, is important. I think there's some accountability there, because if you have an issue, you can easily audit it. The other thing about the auditing process, by the way, that has to change is when you look at Georgia and some of the other states, the reality of auditing 2 million ballots in a 30-day window of time is impossible. So we've got to figure out. I'm not going to propose a solution to that, but we've got to figure out a better way of being prepared. It's better to have a plan and not need it, right? To not have a plan. I don't think we have a good plan on how do we audit when we know those elections out, because we've seen it. I mean, again, they literally pull ballots out from under a table. We have a video camera. Why is that not in court? Right? Like, why were those ballots not disqualified, or at least handpicked through? Why? Because they threw them away. Well, that doesn't seem suspicious, and I hate to get into conspiracies, but we have to take this seriously. Moreover, for some of those other swing states, but I have to believe, again, part of this is we've got to do our part. We have to tend the garden. We have to do what we're told to do. We also have to have faith that God's hand is present. And I agree. I think Trump needed to lose because it woke us all up.
Yes.
We've got to take this country back, and that's why I would assert Tennessee has got to lead the charge. Texas, Tennessee, South Dakota, Oklahoma, Florida, we know who they are. It takes a chorus of governors leading and telling Washington, D.C. to get out of my state. I don't want you running my education. Right?
Yeah.
I want to teach Tennessee education, and if you don't like it, don't move here from California.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We are a republic of free states. Yes, sir.
We have a serious problem in this country with the influence of the communist Chinese. And I've taken the position that at this point, any elected official at any level or appointed official in government, if they do not openly and overtly stand for liberty and freedom, I have to assume they're a witting employee of the Communist Party.
Amen.
Well, I don't know if you
So
saw
what
me.
will you do if you're in a state position to make sure the communists, not the individual citizens of China who are
Sure.
oppressed, but the regime of China, know they're not welcome in Tennessee, and any influence they have in this state, including facilities at the University of Tennessee, be shut down and removed.
Right. Amen. All right. So under Trump, Secretary Pompeo, and then I forget his name, I'm drawing a blank, the Director of National Intelligence, warned governors across the country that the single largest threat to freedom and democracy was China. And so, and any foreign direct investment from China. I'm not talking about the Chinese
You
people.
mean like Billy's business partners?
And so, so yes, I think we have to pull away from China. And I think if you look in the news today, the Emperor of China is now taking the title of like Supreme Being or whatever it translates to. And so again, they are setting up, and you know, we're Americans. We think in short terms. We think in what am I going to do today and tomorrow? They think in terms of dynasties. When I say they, I'm talking about the government, right? They are planning a dynasty. They are planning to reassert the dynasty. And we can't fathom that. In the same way, it's hard for most Americans to understand in a third world country that you can buy a child for $5. I mean, that means that's hard for most people to understand. But you know, I've helped facilitate the purchase of children to buy them out of slavery. So I can tell you it's easy to do. It's hard for us to wrap our brains around that fact. China is building a dynasty, and we stand in their way. They're public enemy number one.
I just had a couple of comments. The comment about what, you know, the anger that's around everything. We need to be careful not to take the bait. We don't need to be silent, but we're getting baited.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
we need to be very careful. We need to be vocal, but we need to not be baited. That's the first comment. Second comment about the election. Why can't we run it like a college exam where you put it through the Scantron, it prints out a receipt, right? You all had a receipt after you took a test, you took that home, your 58% went on the fridge, whatever it was, and you've got that receipt. Then you go on, like you could do this in Arizona, you go online and you check how you voted, and if it is not right, you've got your receipt. You scan it in and you get it to the electors or whatever, and then it gets fixed. That is a paper trail scenario.
Yeah.
In my hand, not in some counter's hand.
That's
In my
fine.
hand.
So 2 points there. One was about not being baited on social media. The other was about in the moment that you cast your ballot, getting your paper receipt. So on the first one, I wholeheartedly agree. And so I'm regularly attacked on social media. You can typically tell by the tone or the language or whatever that it is in fact being baited. You're never going to win the social media argument, so I just ignore them. I can't fix stupid. I'm just going to be honest with you. And so if someone has enough time on their hands from literally Colorado to call me out because I'm not issuing a mask mandate, I just simply, in my head, I'm thinking, go get a job. I say it out loud to myself so I feel better. I just don't put it on social media. Right? When it gets to voting and getting a receipt in the moment that you cast your ballot is a brilliant idea. It's called common sense, right? But how we change the system across the country is, again, you get Tennessee and Oklahoma and Texas. We run our own elections in the state of Tennessee. And if we get a chorus of conservative governors fixing how the election process is run, that spreads to other states. What Tennessee does, whether it be economically or in our schools, we border eight other states. It immediately has an impact across, the eastern portion of the country. Then you have Florida, then you have Texas, then you have South Dakota, other conservatives piling on. They have border states, and so we can impact the change, but the leadership starts here from the state of Tennessee.
Yes.